had no idea what a Wisconsin process was. I had no idea what the word meant, and on the first day of class I felt confused. So when we were asked about our sense of origin and belonging, I thought about how I knew that I was a little bit Irish and Ukrainian. And I knew that I was a white female Canadian settler that didn't really know much about my family origin at all. And that made me think about, why don't I know that? That began my Muskoswan journey, my treaty walking process of finding out where my roots came from. After that, I dove into a book called Indigenous Rights by Chelsea Vowell. As I was flowing through the pages of this book, I learned about the terminology of Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, and as my knowledge expanded, reading chapter by chapter, I realized that I had a lot of reflecting and listening yet to do. Next, I spent a lot of time reflecting and talking about my opinions and ideas that I had from Chelsea Vowell's text with my friends and family. And at this point, I realized that my friends and family were a big part of my process. The topics in this class I reflected on by learning new things about different presentations such as white supremacy, missing and murdered Indigenous women, or the government, and how these conversations that I had with my peers were a part of my journey and my thinking. One of the presentations that I had to do was on Canada 150. This controversial issue really made me see and made me think deeply about the truth about Canadians' past and what it means to mend it. After doing this presentation, it made me see that I really want to act on this idea. This led me to being a part of the Reconciliation event. It was an action I was doing in a topic that I believed in and I wanted to have conversations about. Before this event, I thought I needed to be an expert on Indigenous peoples and the truth about Canadian history. Because I was scared to get backlash, because I knew that some people didn't have the same beliefs and ideas as me. And I knew that as an education student that I was thankful to be open to having these conversations with my classmates. But stepping out of my comfort zone was something that was hard for me to do. This was a huge part of my process. This led me to want to do more action. And as I learned about the 150 Acts of Reconciliation that was written by Crystal and Sarah, I wanted to put these acts in my own life, whether it be large or small. These are the ones that I have accomplished, and I plan to keep going. The next part of my Muskoswan journey was a field trip to the heart of Treaty 4, Fort Qu'Appelle. I was excited for this field trip because I'm a visual learner and I wanted to listen and learn from other people and places. This was a pinpoint in my journey because I got to experience so much, and as I try to think about how I want to put it into words about the types of learning and reflecting I did during that time, I just can't. As I talked to my parents and grandparents, I got to learn a lot more about my ancestors and who they were. I couldn't believe it, how much information I was finding out on them, and how much that really deepened my roots, and I found out more about my identity, and that I was more Polish than Ukrainian, which I thought in the first place. I looked at bits and pieces of myself as an educator throughout this process, and I learned that I'm not afraid to be critiqued and to start conversations about the truth of Canadian history and to act on repairing Canadians' identity. This process is a never-ending road. I'm always learning and listening. Until next time, Ms. Rutzki.